Hi, guys, and welcome back to Autism Journeys radio show. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to have a young lady by the name of Freya O Horo on the show. She is a big sister to the lovely Dian, a young autistic boy, and she is also the founder of Autism Siblings Ireland. She, along with that, was recently published in a very, very well known through a very well known organization, but we leave her, that can be her story to share. Freya, I'm so delighted to have you on the show today. I can't wait to gain your perspective and your insight into autism from that sibling space.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Sharon.
Now, we've got fortunes of questions to get through, so I'm actually going to get right started to it, if that's okay, and ask you your first. So, Freya, can you tell me, when did you first learn that Dian, fingers crossed for the right pronunciation, was autistic, and what do you think? What did you think autism was back then?
So you're right, it is Dian. First off the bat. So back in 2010, Dian was 2 and I would have been 11 at the time. And that's when we got his autism diagnosis. At the time being told that, I was very unaware of what autism was. I didn't know what that meant for him, what life had in store for him. So it was a very unknown area for me.
Okay, okay. And I suppose there's always an anxiety to what we don't know, or to that we don't understand. Can I ask you, Freya, who and what supported your understanding and the development of that understanding over the last 11 years?
Well, to be quite honest, Dian would have been the one that gave me my understanding of autism. Every day I'm learning more and more. Um, my mum, dad, family all would have supported all of us. We all supported each other as Dian grows up. And even now, like he's hitting puberty, and that's like puberty and autism, that's a whole new perspective for us and learning that. Do you know? So I suppose I would say my family was the big support, and Dian would have been my understanding of autism.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I love actually that you're immediately, it's not, well, I read this book or I read that book or I looked at this or that, that you're actually looking at your little person and
Yeah.
saying, okay, actually you kid are the guy who's after who's after equipping me, I suppose. I love it. Freya, can I ask you, what do you feel your role as an autism sibling is in your household?
Well, a little background to my family. There's me, my brother Tuan, and Dian. So I'm 21, Tuan is 16, and Dian is 12. So I am very much the big sister to both my brothers. So that protectiveness immediately kicks in, especially with Dian. So I suppose my role as the big sister, I feel like, is to protect Dean, is to educate people. It's, I suppose, help him be raised in a world where there's not as much judgment towards him if he comes into a shop and he's on his tippy toes or he's flapping his hands. I do take that as my role in the family.
Fantastic. And what about your brother too? And then do you find that you have that same level of minding of him and so on, or does he step into that kind of big brother role, and that kind of protective role where Dean is concerned?
I do find with two and both of us have the very much the same level of protectiveness towards Dean, and we'd be messing that we're like his personal bodyguards and stuff. And then as I go on like the educating role, I find Tuan is very much there for the one-on-one work with Dean, like his sensory time and things like that. Like he would like Dean is loves wrestling. It kind of helps get all that energy, all that built up that's inside of him. And Tuan would be great then for the wrestling because I'd be awful. I get injured way too quick. Like so that's where Tuan will kind of step in.
Fantastic. You mentioned, Freya, there, just as an aside, about Dean's sensory profile almost. Do you find that Dean is a kiddo who seeks out lots of sensory inputs, and kind of what kind of tools and so on do you guys find help Dean regulate throughout any day?
Yeah, so he has quite a lot of say sensory needs. He sleeps every night with a weighted blanket, and a lot throughout the day, like we'd kind of do little activities and stuff with them. But he'd always have like his fidget toys. He has a chewy man that he always consistently bites on because a lot of his sensory is in his jaw. So he will tend to bite himself or others to get that out of his system. So that's why we kind of bring in the fidget jewelry and things like that to help him. So
Cool.
another thing too we'd kind of do is in his muscles and in his body, he holds a lot of tension. So we'd have kind of a lot of like massaging him and doing activities, getting him stretching and getting him up and moving as best as we can to release that tension he carries in his body.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask you, Freya, that I know that Dian now has huge linguistic ability.
Yeah.
Was Dian always a speaking autistic individual, or was there a time when he was non-speaking?
His speech was definitely delayed at the start. Um, it took him longer to be able to interact and communicate and to form sentences. He used PECs for a lot of his life. And through early intervention, his school, they've been able to build him up to a point where he doesn't need to use PECs anymore, and he's able to tell us what he wants and what he needs.
Great.
Forming sentences is still hard for him, you know, especially having conversations. Like, it takes a lot of attention and a lot of concentration, and he's not too keen on that. But like you were saying, like his ability, like with other languages, that's kind of his strong point. Like, he knows 6 languages and he's only 12, you know. And I've seen the way he teaches himself. He watches programs in other languages and have the English subtitles, and he's able to make those links. And I suppose it's given me a completely different perspective on language. Do you know, I've grown up so privileged being able to communicate and interact, and I see his way of looking at it and how he teaches himself languages. And I'm so bad at learning other languages. Like, school Irish and French were not my strong point, but you put that in front of him and he's able to learn it in a few days. Do you know, it's amazing like how different abilities. And I think that's a big thing too with Dean, is that just because he may not be able to hold a conversation with you for 2 minutes, he can still go and teach himself French. Do you know, he has his strong point, and that's so important to remember.
I think that's the whole point around this kind of strengths and supports campaign that we're running this month. It's about that kind of flipping the narrative and
Yeah,
not assuming incapacity or inability, actually looking at the strengths that we know every individual has, every single individual has strengths and talents. And it's really about like looking at those talents and those strengths and figuring out ways that we can use those talents to propel a young person forward so that they have every opportunity to become their best selves, so to speak. I'm fascinated. Irish was
absolutely.
definitely not my subject either. And to think that there's a young person, I suppose, just to put it into perspective for people, like what age, just explain to people about this linguistic piece and this like age, put it into perspective for people.
Yeah.
Like what age is Dean? You might tell people age and what actually what
Yeah.
is.
So he's 12, he's going to be 13 on the 1st of May. And I suppose maybe the last 2, 3 years, his love for languages really came out, because he loves YouTube and he loves like videos. He loves making even his own videos, that side of things. And through that, then he learned then kind of seeing other languages, other videos in other languages, being able to change it himself. And he discovered his love of then other languages through that. And we kind of started to notice it when he'd ask us for things in like Russian or Portuguese, and we'd be looking like, what is he saying? And then you kind of start to cop, then it's like, oh my god, this he's speaking in another language to us. And as you start to watch what he's watching and what he's looking at, we're like, oh, this boy has just taught himself Portuguese. And the funny thing is, when he turns around and asks us for something in another language, we have to go, Dean, I'm sorry, I don't speak that. And he looks at us like, oh, come on, what do you mean you don't speak it? Come on, learn it, come on. And I just love that, that he has that over us, that he's like, okay, well, I can speak 6 languages and you can't. So, you need to get on my level.
I love it. Absolutely love
Yeah.
it. Do you know, so sorry about that, Freya. I had to take out those headphones, those headset, because I just got too much feedback. I'm hoping that it's not going to impact upon the quality of the audio, but I don't think it will. So I'm going to keep going, right? I suppose just like it fascinates me. It's so important that people actually realize that these kiddos have so many different areas of strength, and we need to start. Ultimately, that's what we need to do. We need to focus on it, simply put. And I love the fact that that Dian is looking at you guys going, come off the stage, mom. Like, why in the name of God don't you know what I'm talking about? Like they're really, it's cool. Again, it's flipping the narrative and expecting, and it's like that kind of, but you know what? You should know what I know. that's it. You know, this kind of, so it's fab. Freya, can I ask you, with regards to yourself, as a sibling to an autistic person, what are the benefits to that, in your opinion?
Oh, there's been so many benefits that I've been able to see, like straight off the bat, like the patients alone. Like I am a social care student, and I'm currently on placement and stuff, and the patients that I've learned from being Dean's sister, it comes in, it's so beneficial to me on placement. We're interacting with service users and things like that. Um, you know, being non-judgmental, being caring, compassionate, kind, like these qualities I've built up from my relationship with Dean. um you go out on the street for a day with your friends, and somebody walks past you and they might be flapping their hands, or they may have like ear defenders on, and my instant thing is like, oh, like Dian does that, Dian's like that. And there's no judgment, there's no staring, there's no, oh my god, he's weird or whatever. Like, I've just been able to go out into the world, and anytime I see somebody who may be a little different to me, I'm just thinking, I don't know what's going on in their life. I'm not, my instant thing is never to judge. So I've learned all those qualities from having Dean as my little brother.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I suppose you in part have just answered my next question, in that, do you believe that your relationship with Dian has given you a better understanding of other neurodivergent people? Do you feel that you're better equipped to help support other autistic young people, or to I suppose be more understanding of other autistic people?
Absolutely. Like, this is the reason I went into social care, is because I want to help other people. I want to help other people and their families, and be a support there, like the supports were there for me and my family, for Dian. And that's really why I went into social care. I suppose Autism Siblings too got set up that way, is that I'm so dedicated to that side of things. I want to help others. I want to improve. Like, if at the end of my life, if I've helped one other autistic individual get fulfillment and get to the point they want in their life, I'll be happy. you know it's all about helping them achieve their best and what they want in life.
Fantastic. Freya, with regards to the Autism Siblings Ireland, then, I suppose, first of all, what gave you the idea to set that up?
Well, I suppose when I heard about Dean's diagnosis, there wasn't a lot of supports there for siblings. A lot was geared at the parents. I know my mum and dad, they went to like groups with other like parents who got new autism diagnoses and stuff, and there was nothing really there for siblings. And me and my brother had to go to my mum for a lot of it, like if we had questions and stuff. And I suppose as a sibling, I could be that person for another sibling, you know and I suppose that's kind of where the idea came from. I wanted to have like a place, like a resource for other siblings to turn to for advice and guidance and help.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find, Freya, do you find that there's a lot of um, siblings now interact with your page or send you messages, or whatever the case may be, looking for advice around how best to support both their autistic sibling and themselves in that new role?
Absolutely. I've met so many wonderful siblings through it, and some of them I even are my friends to this day. Do you know, I'm in groups as well on Instagram with other siblings, and we kind of just talk about our day, or if we need advice, or we share resources and stuff. It's wonderful. And I've had siblings say, "Thank you so much for setting up this page. I was reading your blogs. I tried this and it helped." It's so rewarding to see that what I'm doing is actually helping other siblings. And I love hearing from other siblings and hearing that it's helping, or would you recommend this or that? Like, I love being that person for other people.
Fantastic, fantastic. Freya, can I ask you, I suppose, if you go to your page right now, because I did actually jump back over onto your page there about an hour ago, just to think, you can see a wonderful mix of various stories from other siblings and families of autistic people. I have to say, I absolutely love it. There's so many powerful moments being shared. Where did you come up with this idea? Is this a campaign for the month of April, and I suppose, if so, or into the future even, how can people get involved in this?
So a few years ago, I decided to start for Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month of April to share sibling stories. And I suppose it came from that. I didn't want my page to just be all about me, because every sibling and their stories are different. We're on different journeys, you know. No individual with autism is the same. So I knew, even though mine and Dean's story is one way, other sibling stories could be different another way. And so I wanted the page, because it is Autism Siblings Ireland, it's for Ireland, that it has a variety of siblings sharing to it. And I suppose that's why then I reached out to other siblings to get their stories and their perspectives, so that when some siblings come onto the page and they can't relate to me or Dean, there's other siblings there that they could relate to. And if you look even at the stories that we have, some are adults, some are young children, you know, like it's a mix of ages, so that, you know, autism isn't just for your childhood, autism is for your whole life. And I wanted to make that really clear with the siblings stories that came on, was that siblings coming on that might be in their teens can see what it's like an adulthood and how these siblings relationships are. And I suppose that's kind of why I started the campaign. And it was perfect with April being Autism Awareness Month, because I seen so many people sharing stories
Yeah.
and sharing, you know, their love for their child or for their sibling. And I thought it'd be a great time of year to really, you know, get the word out there about other siblings. And I suppose if your listeners want to be involved, of course, you can get in contact with me through my Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and, you know, share your story. Because even though I am doing it for the month of April, if somebody came to me in August, in September, being like, I'd like to share my story, absolutely, that's what it's there for. I just choose, I suppose, this time of year to campaign it and get the word out about it, but it's available there all year round.
Fantastic. I suppose I'm thinking, Freya, about the point that you make about the siblings and autistic people, that they're not children forever, and that
Yeah,
people do grow up and so on. And I suppose that's one of the really nice things about your campaign, and I suppose part of your story is that you're acknowledging that, because all too often, unfortunately, there is that idea that autism is a childhood, a child, only for childhood, and
yeah,
that people almost grow out of it. I've actually been unfortunate enough, I suppose, in times gone by, to meet with um, educational staff who would have said, "But I thought he grew out of that." Quite literally
yeah,
used those words. So it's just, so I think it's really, really good that people actually get to see how things look as people grow. And I suppose there's huge power in that too, to be fair, where an individual gets to see that, okay, actually in 6 years time, or in 12 years time, or whatever the case may be, that actually that it will be still possible to have a really
yeah,
positive relationship, or with my brother or my sister, or whatever the case may be. So I suppose,
absolutely.
and I love too that it's available all year round, that it's not
Yeah,
just for April, which is really, really good. Do you know?
yeah.
I suppose, as an aside, is there any hashtag or anything um, that you're using as part of that campaign, so that people, if they search that hashtag, that they will see, they'll be automatically brought to like lots of these fantastic posts?
Well, we always use the hashtag Autism Siblings Ireland. And so if you search that, you'll see stories from the last few years that we've even done. So you can go right back and see everyone's beautiful stories.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. Can I ask you, Freya, what does Dian think of the blog post? Has he ever checked it out with you? Has he ever looked at photographs of himself on screen? Has he ever articulated that he likes or doesn't like whatever is going on?
Um, it's actually funny, because sometimes I'll be sitting beside him, I'll be doing up a blog post, or I'll be, you know, on Facebook editing the page or whatever, and he kind of would spot out the corner of his eye a picture of himself up on it. And he'd lean in and he'd be looking, and he'd be like, he'd almost take the laptop off me and be going through, and he'd be like, oh, there's me. And, you know, it's, even though he doesn't say communicate it with me that it's okay, like, I never hid it from him. It's, he knows it's there, and he knows he can look at it whenever he wants. And, you know, I think it's really important to, like, not keep it from him, you know,
Yeah,
because he's very much involved in it in that way. And I do sometimes say, like, you know, we're getting our picture taken, like, oh, can I put this up? Can I put this up on my computer? And I'll show him me uploading it and stuff, and he's very aware of it. So while he doesn't exactly say he's happy with it, he's always shown me through his body language and things like that that he's comfortable with it being there.
that's fantastic. I suppose it's really important that whether somebody is speaking or non-speaking, whether somebody uses words to communicate or other ways to communicate, it's still really important that we keep that person's voice central, and that kind of their autonomy central to
Absolutely.
everything. So I suppose that's a very, very important message right there, in that you're saying that, like, you're still like you're actually saying those words, you're asking, and you're kind of saying,
Yeah,
is it okay that I put those up, and so on. And I think that that is key, because whether somebody is speaking or not, if Dian wasn't happy with you putting that up, I've no doubt that he would communicate that to you in
absolutely.
whatever
Yeah,
which way would suit him. Do you know? So it's fab. I love the curiosity around himself on this the computer screen as well, though. It's fab. Um,
yeah.
Now, Freya, on a different note, I know you recently published an article in the Mighty, and the one that I by chance came across was the one that speaks about supporting online learning for your autistic sibling and so on. Would you tell my listeners about this and about any other writing that you're doing? And I suppose just to acknowledge too that it's the writing piece that we're looking at, as well as the information, and not just the sibling piece that we're looking at.
Absolutely. So this piece in particular, I realized, coming into the online remote learning that siblings are at home too, and a lot of the articles would be like, targeted at parents and what to do and what to help. And I was like, well, no, because I know me being at home, I would help Dean and I would do activities with them and stuff that the school was sending out. And I suppose I wanted to just write a piece, basically, giving a few little tips and stuff to other siblings on how to get involved. Um, so things like, sitting beside them when they're doing their schoolwork, taking lunch breaks with them, getting involved in like their occupational therapy activities, things like that. Little simple things that you can do to help your sibling. And I suppose it was wonderful that the Mighty published it. And with the Mighty, then I've had about 5, 6 pieces with them where they've given me that platform to share my story, and it's a really nice feeling of being appreciated by somebody like the Mighty for my writing and for the love I have, because I love writing, and being able to have my blog and have the Mighty and able to show that through that, it's really rewarding.
I suppose it's a huge achievement, Freya, and it's really important that you do acknowledge that, because a number of people, as I've said previously, yeah, like we can all write different bits and like write different kind of articles and so on, but very few people are actually um, right to the standard that the Mighty, somebody, an organization as large as the Mighty will actually publish, and are happy to publish as part of their campaigns. So there's a huge, huge, huge achievement in that, I suppose, and it is really, really important that we do absolutely acknowledge your talent as a writer in that as well, and to say congratulations on that, not only around sharing that your perspective as a sibling, but also a congratulations with regards to your talent. So I think that it's a huge achievement, and important that we celebrate that too.
Thank you.
Do you have any other articles coming down the line, or any other kind of blog posts and stuff that you're hoping to be able to publish over the next short while, that people will be able to access and so on?
Absolutely. I'm always thinking of ideas and working on blog posts. And my thing is always to just be as real and honest in them. So, as Dean's grown up and stuff, things happen. And I suppose that kind of inspires blog posts as they go along. And like we are hitting now with Dean in puberty. And I
Yeah.
suppose that's definitely inspiring me to write a blog post about that aspect of things. So I definitely think that's coming up in the future.
Fantastic. Because as you were speaking, I was going, maybe she'll write something on puberty, because that would be so helpful to so many families, not just siblings, but to parents and to
Yeah,
autistic young people and so on. It'd be so, so helpful. So there's your next project laid out there for you.
absolutely.
um, with regards to other siblings, do you have any advice for other siblings of autistic people?
I think what I would say is you are a human being. You're going to have stresses and worries and problems and difficulties, and never feel that you're being a burden to your parents when you express them. A lot of time, as siblings, because we see so much going on with our autistic sibling and what they need in the services, we sometimes feel like we can burden our parents if we have problems and difficulties. But it's okay. It's really okay that you do. You're a human being. You're going to experience them. And your parents will want nothing more than for you to feel comfortable to express those to them. So don't hold back. Be honest with them and talk to them.
Perfect. And I suppose from that parental perspective, for me at least, in my opinion, it's so important, because a parent doesn't want to feel like they have neglected one child in favor of meeting another child's needs. So I
Yeah.
suppose it is really important, because ultimately we're parents to all of our children, not just to the autistic young person. And I suppose, additionally speaking, I suppose, and based upon that, then what can we as parents do to support the siblings of our autistic children?
I suppose knowing that we see all that you do, because I feel like sometimes parents feel like they don't give enough to their neurotypical children. And I suppose wanting you to know that we see all that you're doing by letting us go meet our friends, by buying us those new runners we've been eyeing up. Like, there is so much that you are doing for us in that regard. And I suppose just simply even checking up on us, and even in I suppose communicating to us what you're going through with our sibling with autism. Please involve us in everything. Don't feel like you have to have conversations behind closed doors about them, that you don't want us to see certain sides of it. Please do, because we know someday that when you're gone, we are going to step in as carers, and we're going to want to be as the best that we can be for our siblings. Involve us in the whole progress.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose that whole family unit, rather than parent versus child unit, that
Yeah,
whole family unit, and kind of coming at everything from a whole family approach. Yeah,
absolutely.
perfect. Um, Freya, you'll be glad there's only two more questions. Thank goodness, says Freya. First thing is, where can people actually find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Instagram and Facebook, if you search Autism Siblings Ireland, you'll find us. And then on Twitter, I'm Freya O Horo, but I still use my platform on Twitter very much the same as Autism Siblings Ireland on Instagram and Facebook. So please feel free to contact me on Twitter if you need to.
Okay, and I suppose I'll share all of your contact information underneath either the SoundCloud or the YouTube or the Spotify posts, so that people will have an automatic and direct link to click on those as well.
Absolutely.
And I suppose, Freya, then with regards to advice for other siblings who are helping someone along their autism journey, what advice do you have to share?
I suppose just remember that along your journey, there's going to be ups and downs. Just because one thing is working today doesn't mean the next day it's going to work, and that's okay. There's trial and error, there's regression. You're going to realize that along your journey, that you just need to be patient and to just be there the best that you can for them, even when they're having a meltdown. Being really calm, really patient, showing them that you're there for them will mean the world. Then you coming up with a solution, then you coming up with, give them this or do this. You'll realize the little things matter the most. And as long as you're there by their side throughout their journey, you're doing the best you can.
Very wise, very wise beyond your years words, Freya. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you for having me. I loved doing this interview with you.